di questa pittura, di questo uomo che in quel momento allarga le braccia.
Imagine walking into a quiet dining hall in Milan. The walls are bare stone, the light is dim, and the air carries the faint scent of centuries-old plaster. At the far end, a mural dominates the room. A long table stretches across the wall. 13 figures sit around it, their hands caught in mid-motion, their faces frozen between shock, confusion, and betrayal. This is the Last Supper, one of the most recognized images in the history of art. Painted over 500 years ago by Leonardo da Vinci, it's more than just a religious scene. For some, it's a masterpiece of Renaissance humanism. For others, it's a puzzle hiding secrets that have yet to be solved. But here's the twist. Leonardo didn't paint it like other artists of his time. He didn't follow the rules. He invented his own technique, gambling everything on an experiment. That experiment gave the painting its lifelike glow, but it also doomed it to crumble almost as soon as it was finished. What we see today is not exactly what Leonardo saw when he stepped back from the wall in 1498. It's a survival story, a ghost of the original, layered with centuries of damage, repair, and even war. And yet, the mystery doesn't stop there. Over the years, scholars, conspiracy theorists, and even artificial intelligence have tried to decode what Leonardo left behind. Was the figure next to Jesus really John the Apostle? Or Mary Magdalene? As some claim, did Leonardo hide secret codes, mathematical patterns, or even a dangerous truth within the gestures and shadows? Or are these just the imaginations of a world that craves mystery more than fact? In this video, we'll journey through history, art, and cutting-edge science to uncover the full story of the Last Supper, from its creation in the court of Milan, to its near destruction in World War II, to the modern-day debates fueled by novels, movies, and AI analysis. This is not just the story of a painting. It's the story of how art becomes legend, how legends become conspiracy, and how even 5 centuries later, Leonardo da Vinci is still challenging us to look deeper. Stay with us, because what you're about to discover may change the way you see one of the most famous images in the world. To understand why the Last Supper was painted at all, we need to step back into Milan at the end of the 15th century. The city was booming, politically, militarily, and artistically. The man at the center of it all was Duke Ludovico Sforza, known as Il Moro. He wanted Milan to shine as a cultural rival to Florence and Venice. And for that, he needed artists who could make bold statements. Enter Leonardo da Vinci. By the 1490s, Leonardo had already developed a reputation as more than just a painter. He was an engineer, inventor, anatomist, and dreamer. A man with one foot in science and the other in art. He wasn't just there to decorate walls. He was there to build Milan's identity, to create works that fused religion, politics, and innovation. The Duke's commission was simple in concept but monumental in ambition. Paint the Last Supper on the wall of the refectory of Santa Maria della Grazia, a Dominican convent closely tied to the Sforza family. But think about that location. A refectory is a dining hall. Monks would gather here every day to eat in silence. Guests of the Duke would also pass through, seeing the grandeur of Milan's faith and culture on display. So the subject mattered. What better image for a dining hall than the ultimate meal in Christian history? Christ's final supper with his disciples. Leonardo's choice of scene wasn't just biblical, it was deeply practical. It reminded monks and nobles alike that meals were not simply about food, but about community, faith, and even betrayal. But here's where Leonardo's genius showed itself. He didn't just paint a religious icon, he engineered an experience. He designed the table in the painting to line up with the real table in the room. Imagine sitting down to eat, looking up, and seeing Christ and the apostles dining with you, their gestures echoing the very space you occupied. It was a clever way of blurring the line between art and life, something filmmakers and immersive artists still try to achieve today. And Leonardo's timing was no accident. Milan was in the middle of major architectural projects. Donato Bramante, the architect who would later design parts of St. Peter's Basilica in Rome, was active in the city. Music, sculpture, and grand buildings filled the court's agenda. By placing the Last Supper in this convent, the Duke wasn't just sponsoring art, he was stamping his family name onto Milan's spiritual and cultural memory. But here's the irony. While the Duke wanted a showpiece of stability, Leonardo was anything but stable in his methods. He didn't use the tried and true technique of fresco painting, applying pigments onto wet plaster so that the paint fused with the wall. Fresco was reliable, durable, safe. Instead, Leonardo wanted flexibility. He sealed the wall, then painted with a mix of tempera and oil, layer by layer, almost like working on canvas. This gave him incredible control over details, the softness of John's youthful face, the tension in Peter's grip on a knife, the subtle play of light behind Christ's head. The result was breathtaking. A mural alive with human expression, dynamic movement, and psychological depth that no fresco could capture. But it came with a catch. By refusing tradition, Leonardo gambled with time itself. His experimental medium meant the colors didn't bond with the wall. Almost immediately, the painting began to flake. In chasing perfection, Leonardo created fragility. And yet, isn't that a reflection of Leonardo himself? Always inventing, always pushing boundaries, never satisfied with safe answers. In many ways, The Last Supper is the perfect symbol of the Renaissance: bold, experimental, ambitious, and at times, reckless. When Leonardo unveiled his mural in the late 1490s, it was more than just decoration. It was a statement. It told visitors that Milan was at the cutting edge of faith and culture. It told the monks that their daily bread was shared with Christ himself. And it told us, 5 centuries later, that Leonardo was not just painting a scene. He was rewriting the way we experience sacred history. But if the commission and creation of The Last Supper were the story's beginning, what came next was a drama no one could have predicted. Because this masterpiece, destined for immortality, began to collapse almost as soon as it was born. Frescoes bond with the wall, becoming part of its structure. His paint, however, clung only to the surface. Within years, moisture and salts from the plaster began to push it off. The very method that gave the mural its lifelike glow also guaranteed its decay. And time was merciless. By the 16th century, viewers already remarked that the painting looked faded. In the 17th and 18th centuries, well-meaning restorers tried to fix it by painting directly over Leonardo's work, burying his delicate strokes under thick varnishes and crude brushwork. Each attempt to save it damaged it further. By the 19th century, some critics wondered if anything of Leonardo remained at all. Then came the 20th century, and with it, war. In 1943, Allied bombs struck Milan, the roof of Santa Maria delle Grazie collapsed, and the refectory was nearly destroyed. Miraculously, The Last Supper survived, shielded by sandbags, stacked against the wall. But the shockwaves tore at its already fragile surface, leaving scars that restorers would struggle to mend for decades. To make matters worse, a doorway had been cut into the wall in earlier centuries, chopping off part of the lower section of the mural. Imagine altering one of the world's greatest paintings just to make room for a new passageway. It's almost unthinkable. And yet it happened. A reminder that even masterpieces can fall victim to practicality. The most ambitious restoration came much later, between 1978 and 1999, under the direction of Painan Brambilla Barcelona. This wasn't just a repair job, it was a rescue mission. Using microscopes, chemical tests, and infrared imaging, her team painstakingly removed centuries of dirt, repainting, and varnish. They revealed fragments of Leonardo's original strokes, delicate hands, expressive faces, subtle drapery, while filling in missing areas with careful, neutral tones. Not everyone agreed with the results. Some said too much had been taken away. Others praised the bold use of science to bring the work back to life. But one thing was clear: without that restoration, the painting might not have survived into the 21st century at all. And yet, even restored, what we see today is not Leonardo's original vision. It's a ghost layered with centuries of interventions. Part Renaissance masterpiece, part 20th century reconstruction. This raises an uncomfortable question. When we look at The Last Supper, are we seeing Leonardo, or are we seeing the fingerprints of everyone who tried to save him? This dilemma is not unique to Leonardo. Think of other icons of human achievement: the Parthenon in Athens, the pyramids of Giza, even the Statue of Liberty. They survive, but only through constant intervention. The original and the restored become inseparable, forcing us to accept that preservation is always a compromise. And yet, despite its decay, The Last Supper continues to draw millions of visitors every year. They come not just to see a painting, but to encounter a story. The story of an artist who risked everything on an experiment, of a city that nearly lost its treasure, and of a masterpiece that refuses to die. But if the painting itself is fragile, the people inside it are eternal. Who were these figures surrounding Jesus? And why has one of them, the one sitting closest to him, sparked the fiercest debate in art history? When you first look at the Last Supper, the composition feels simple: a long table, 13 figures, Jesus in the center. But look closer, and the simplicity falls apart. Every disciple is caught in a moment of shock, disbelief, or anger, responding to Jesus' words, "One of you will betray me." Leonardo arranges them in 4 groups of 3, each trio forming its own dramatic scene. Bartholomew, James the Lesser, and Andrew look stunned, their hands raised in protest. Judas hunches in shadow, clutching a small purse, a chilling symbol of the silver coins he received for his betrayal. Beside him, Peter leans forward aggressively, knife in hand, while John appears calm, almost dreamlike. On the other side of Christ, Thomas points upward with a finger. James the Greater covers his face in shock, and Philip leans in, pleading for answers. At the far end, Matthew, Jude Thaddeus, and Simon the Zealot converse in animated disbelief. This is no stiff religious tableau. It's a theater of human emotion. Leonardo, with his background in anatomy and psychology, turned a biblical scene into a psychological drama. Every head tilt, every gesture, feels as if the disciples are caught mid-breath. But one figure has sparked centuries of debate: the disciple seated immediately to Jesus' right. Traditionally, this is John, the youngest apostle, often depicted with soft, almost feminine features. Leonardo painted him with flowing hair, delicate skin, and a serene expression, details that Renaissance artists frequently used to signal youth and purity. Yet for some, those features looked too feminine. By the late 20th century, alternative theories emerged. What if this wasn't John at all, but Mary Magdalene? The idea stayed mostly fringe until 2003, when Dan Brown's blockbuster novel The Da Vinci Code put it at the center of a global conversation. Brown's story claimed that Leonardo deliberately placed Mary beside Jesus to signal their secret relationship, even a hidden bloodline passed down through history. Suddenly, millions of readers were squinting at the painting, tracing lines between figures, convinced that a buried truth had been staring us in the face for 500 years. Art historians, however, pushed back. They pointed to Leonardo's consistent style. Young men in his paintings often look androgynous. John's features here resemble the angel and virgin of the rocks or the young men in his sketches. Moreover, copies made by Leonardo's students, faithful records of the original before it deteriorated, also depict the figure as John, not Mary. Scientific imaging of the underdrawing confirms this. The lines beneath the paint match Leonardo's male studies, not a reworked female form. Still, the theory refuses to die. Why? Because people love mystery. Conspiracies thrive when the truth is complex and the evidence is partial. And the Last Supper is both. The painting is fragile, damaged, layered with centuries of repairs. Details are blurred or lost, making it a perfect canvas for speculation. And let's be honest, the Magdalene theory resonates with deeper cultural questions. Why has Mary Magdalene, a central follower of Jesus, the first witness to the resurrection, so often been sidelined in Christian tradition? Why do women's roles in early Christianity remain underexplored? Even if Leonardo never intended to paint Mary, the very possibility sparks conversations about gender, power, and forgotten voices in religious history. In that sense, the debate reveals more about us than about Leonardo. We see what we want to see. Some search for hidden codes, others for suppressed truths, but the painting itself, layered with cracks and scars, becomes a mirror, reflecting both Renaissance genius and modern imagination. And it's not just the Magdalene theory. Over the years, countless other claims have surfaced. Some see musical notes hidden in the arrangement of bread and hands, suggesting Leonardo embedded a secret hymn. Others trace geometric shapes or astrological patterns in the composition, arguing that he encoded cosmic knowledge. Most of these theories collapse under scrutiny, but they show how the Last Supper has become more than a painting. It's a cultural Rorschach test, inviting every generation to project its fears, hopes, and obsessions onto Leonardo's wall. But here's the real twist. In the last few decades, the debate has shifted from human imagination to machine vision. New tools, infrared scans, multispectral imaging, even artificial intelligence are pulling back the layers, literally and figuratively. They reveal not only Leonardo's brushstrokes but also his second thoughts, his erased lines, his hidden geometry. Which raises the biggest question yet. Did Leonardo himself leave behind a coded message? One that we're only now equipped to see? For centuries, debates around the Last Supper were fueled by imagination, theologians, writers, and conspiracy theorists squinting at faded brushstrokes, trying to decode Leonardo's intentions. But in the last few decades, a new set of eyes has joined the conversation, not human, but digital. Infrared reflectography, X-rays, ultraviolet scans, and now artificial intelligence have given us a way to see beneath the paint, into the very skeleton of Leonardo's work. These tools are like time machines, peeling back the centuries of dirt, varnish, and overpainting to reveal what Leonardo first drew on the wall. And the findings are astonishing. Infrared scans show pentimenti, changes Leonardo made as he worked. He shifted the tilt of heads, redrew hands, even adjusted Jesus' posture. These revisions tell us something critical. Leonardo wasn't painting a fixed idea. He was choreographing a living drama, constantly refining until the emotional impact was perfect. AI has taken this even further. By feeding high-resolution images of the Last Supper into machine learning models trained on hundreds of Leonardo's works and workshop copies, researchers have uncovered patterns invisible to the human eye. For example, one AI program mapped a faint line beneath the disciple to Jesus' right, a curve of the jaw that doesn't quite match the surface paint. That same line appears in early copies made by Leonardo's students, suggesting that the original figure was altered. Another analysis traced the positioning of Judas's hand at the table, showing that it was redrawn to emphasize tension between him, Jesus, and the other disciples. Most intriguingly, AI detected a subtle axis connecting three key points: the jawline of John, the hand of Judas, and an arc of light behind Christ's head. These features, layered across underdrawing, pigment, and studio copies, form a deliberate visual path. Was this Leonardo's hidden narrative? Was he pointing viewers toward the triangle of loyalty, betrayal, and sacrifice at the heart of the story? To some, this is the closest we've ever come to uncovering Leonardo's secret code, not a mystical cipher, but a carefully designed composition meant to guide the eye and mind. Unlike conspiracy theories that lean on speculation, this reading is grounded in data, confirmed by multiple independent sources. And yet, even AI can't give us certainty. Machines reveal possibilities, but interpretation still belongs to humans. Do we call this line intentional symbolism, or just an artistic adjustment? Is the faint arc a theological statement, or simply a shadow reworked by later painters? The truth remains open, which is perhaps exactly how Leonardo wanted it. Because if there's one thing consistent about Leonardo, it's that he thrived in ambiguity. He blurred lines between science and art, sacred and secular, reality and imagination. The Last Supper may not hide a literal code, but it embodies Leonardo's greatest lesson. That knowledge comes not from easy answers, but from the willingness to keep looking deeper. And this is where modern parallels hit home. Think about the way we use AI today, scanning patterns in medicine, finance, even social media. Machines give us insights we could never reach alone, but they also raise new questions about interpretation and meaning. Just as scholars debate what AI finds in Leonardo's painting, we're left to ask, what do we trust? The data or our own perception? There's also something poetic about this moment. Leonardo himself was obsessed with machines. He filled notebooks with sketches of flying devices, hydraulic pumps, and war engines. If he could see that, 5 centuries later, machines would be analyzing his art, peeling back the layers of his genius. One suspects he would smile. Maybe he would even approve. And so, the story of the Last Supper doesn't end with cracks on a wall or conspiracy theories in novels. It continues into the digital age, where technology becomes a new brush in Leonardo's hand, helping us see what we could not see before. But here's the question that lingers. If science and AI can tell us what Leonardo painted, can they also tell us why? And can a machine ever fully decode the soul of art? Or is that something that will always belong to human imagination? 5 centuries after Leonardo da Vinci stood in the refectory of Santa Maria delle Grazie, the Last Supper remains one of the most recognizable, debated, and haunting works of art in the world. And yet, what we see today is only a fragment of what Leonardo once created. A ghost of a painting that has survived through time, war, neglect, and endless attempts at preservation. So why does the Last Supper still matter today? Because it embodies the very things we wrestle with as human beings: truth and doubt, faith and reason, tradition and innovation. It's not just a mural in a convent. It's a mirror, reflecting our fears, hopes, and endless search for meaning. And now, the question comes to you. When you look at the Last Supper, do you see a masterpiece of faith, a puzzle of hidden codes, or a fragile reminder of how time spares nothing? Let us know in the comments what you believe. And remember, sometimes the greatest secrets aren't hidden in symbols or shadows. Sometimes they're hidden in plain sight, waiting for us to truly look.